Sarah, can you say something to see, make sure I can hear you?
Yeah, we're live.
Hello, how's it going?
Awesome, we can hear you. Okay, good,
Okay,
perfect.
cool.
Yeah, okay, so I just have to jump in, get started. I know people will join. And as we go, so hey everybody, I just, welcome to tonight's training. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about summer strategies for future college student athletes. And we have a special guest tonight with us, Sarah Deacon. She's an adulting coach, helping like teens, young adults, and teen athletes really figure out, for themselves who they want to be when they grow up. And I thought, she was the perfect guest to chat with tonight about, how young athletes, can really make the most of their summer so they can really ace their college recruiting journey and prioritize like a champion to get to the college level and just really build a bright future. So Sarah, how are you doing tonight?
I am doing great, Tonya. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for being here. And if you're here with us now, if you can hear us, maybe just drop a yes in the comments. I always like to check the audio, when I go live in here, just to make sure I'm not, on mute or something. But I think we're good with the audio. And if you could also drop a, okay, so Regina says she can't make it tonight. Yes, I will. Yeah, Regina, the replay will be up as well, so you can always catch the replay. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. So if you're here, you could just drop a hashtag win in the comment section. If you're ready to get started and talk about summer strategies for future college athletes. Okay, so first, I want to welcome everyone to the College Recruiting Secret Show. If you're watching this episode live, just drop a live in the comments, or if you're catching a replay, if you could drop a replay in the comments, that would be great too. So I usually go live in our Facebook group almost every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. But we have a special guest tonight, Sarah Deacon, and it's Tuesday, of course. And Sarah Deacon, once again, is an adulting coach, helping teens, young athletes, young adults really figure out themselves for who they want to be when they grow up. So I'll let her tell you more about her background in a few minutes. And so for those of you who maybe don't know me or who are joining for the first time, my name is Tonya Sims, and I'm a college sports consultant, and I help parents like yourself, who have kids who play sports, get recruited by college coaches. I'm a former, professional athlete. I also played D1 college sports as well. And so if you're just joining us, or if you missed the beginning, I am joined tonight by Sarah Deacon, an adulting coach, and we're going to be chatting about how young athletes can make the most of their summer so they can really ace their college recruiting journey and prioritize like a champion to get to the college level and really build a bright future. So I want to just jump into our conversation with Sarah Deacon, and I want to let her, tell us more about herself. So Sarah, welcome to the College Recruiting Secret Show.
Thank you, Tonya, for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, of course. So do you want to maybe tell us a little bit more about your background and maybe what is adulting coaching? What is an adulting coach in case people aren't familiar with that
Right. Well,
coaching?
I don't know if there are other adulting coaches out there. I call myself the adulting coach, not
Okay.
just an adulting coach, but the adulting, because I don't know that there's others.
Yeah.
There might be, but I am claiming that for myself. I feel like titling myself this way allowed me to have a little fun and play with the whole life coaching genre.
Sure.
Because I keep hearing, and it's not stopping. I keep hearing people who say, "Oh, I don't want to adult today. Adulting is hard. Adulting sucks." And it actually it started to kind of bother me. It's to hear that, because as I've grown up and matured or whatever, I've started to adult in my life and really claim my own place in the world as an adult. I think it is super fun and I'm having a blast. So that is the hashtag I use, is adulting is fun.
Yeah.
Because people like to argue with me about that. But I firmly believe that when you're acting from a place of confidence and purpose and belonging and knowing who you are for yourself, you can make decisions and push through hard stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not as daunting or
Sure.
debilitating
Yeah.
when you have that stronger foundation. So having developed that for myself, from the training and coaching that I've received over the years,
Hmm.
and um, being in that place as I am now, I get to help other people find that foundation in
Yeah.
themselves so that they can go out and suck at something new and confidently decide how they want to live their own lives and adult successfully on their terms.
Sure. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, whether I'm working with teenagers or I've even worked with adults who are like, I need help adulting. And
Yes.
cool. I'm all for it. That's fine.
That's
Come
great.
on.
I could have used you like, of course, when I was like a, recruit in high school and
Mhm.
college and even in my 30s, I feel like adulting has become more fun in my 40s, but I feel like, that's why I brought you here today because, we want kids and young adults to, of course, have a, healthier, happier adulthood sooner than 40 years old. So that's
Right.
really good. So so how can athletes like build a like athletes who are looking to play in college, how can they build like a bright future while pursuing their college sports journey or their dreams?
That is a great question. And, you asked me a little bit about my background.
Mhm.
I was never an athlete.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's
I
fine.
was a theater kid and a choir
Yeah.
kid and an artist. So I don't have a ton of specific experiences with
Mhm.
the whole athletic recruiting game.
Sure.
That's totally your wheelhouse, and your viewers and audience here in the Facebook group and online and wherever anybody's
Mhm.
listening to, like, talk to Tonya about the athletic side of things and the recruiting. Um, you know, taking, you know, taking yourself to the next level is it
Mhm.
is all about sort of that foundations I was talking about at the beginning, is
Yeah.
knowing who you are, knowing
Right.
what serves you and what you value. And again, like, yeah, at 14, 15, 16, 17, like, do you
Mhm.
really know it all? No. I
Right.
mean, maybe you think you do, and
Mhm.
you know a lot more than somebody might think, but
Right.
because
Yeah.
I think grown-ups don't always give you enough credit when you're young,
Right.
because you do know a lot, and
Mhm.
it's just a matter of getting plugged into it in a productive way,
Sure.
because we can find those rabbit holes and waste a lot of time, online, on social media, on, just kind of messing around
Mhm.
without realizing that what we're the choices we're making still matter for our future.
Sure. Yeah, I love that, and I totally agree. I feel like kids definitely know, kids and teens, know a lot more than I think a lot of we adults give them credit for. And you were saying that you don't really have an athletic background. That's totally okay. I mean, you work with, kids, young teens, young adults, and I believe, I definitely feel that we definitely need, perspectives, different perspectives, from maybe like what we are used to. So
Oh, for sure. And
yeah.
I do really do have a heart for student athletes or any kind of passionate young person
Mhm.
who's very involved to the point of it becomes almost like the core of your identity.
Yeah.
If you're a volleyball player, it's volleyball, or if you're a basketball player, you're a basketball player. But what happens if you're injured, or if, like the last few years, I had started talking to a lot of parents who were like, oh yeah, my hockey player couldn't play
Mhm.
hockey for a year and a half,
Right.
and it devastated them because that was their whole life. So
Yes.
I am a really huge advocate of, yes, have your passion, yes, pursue your goals with the
Mhm.
athletics, and make sure that you have other things that define you besides just the position you play or the sport that you're in.
Yes. That is crucial. I mean, I think I mean, even like, outside of like sports or like, like being an athlete, I think, in anything, I think having your identity wrapped up in one thing is not, not healthy. But
Mhm.
yes, yeah, yeah, I know people, I know athletes maybe who, that I played with growing up, and it's like their whole identity was wrapped up in their sport. And so when they maybe didn't make it to college to play or didn't make it to the professionals to play, they had a really hard time transitioning into like their next journey. So
Right. Yeah, it can be really, really tough. It can be just heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And that's, some of the parents I was talking to as I was, starting off my coaching journey was,
Mhm.
they were telling me about this where the whole identity shift was happening. I'm like, oh, you
Yes.
know, there are ways we can build that resilience. There are ways tools we can equip them with
Mhm.
to help them out with knowing who they are, both inside their athletic role and
Mhm.
outside of it. Where I do a lot of work with my clients discussing like, what is it about the position you play? What is it
Sure.
about the sport you play? What do you love about it? What lights you up? What don't
Right.
you like about it? Because that all of that gives clues to what are your core values as a
Mhm.
person,
Yes.
and
Yes.
how can you develop and build on those and make decisions around those that
Mm.
strengthen your abilities and provide that well-rounded and balanced life that you really are looking for as you go into adulthood.
Yeah, the core value piece really resonates with me. That's something that I teach in my rookie to recruit membership for parents and athletes looking at, athletes looking to play in college is, discovering what your core values are.
Mhm.
It's also very important to know that like when you're communicating with college coaches
Oh,
as
absolutely.
well, and like building your presence either online or, getting, to get recruited by coaches. So yes, I love that. Love
Yeah,
it
and
as
if
well.
and if as you're making decisions, you find, as you're doing your research, you find maybe teams don't share quite the same core values as like, okay, are you going to belong there? Are you going to fit in?
Right.
Or is it going to be like, putting the square peg in the round hole and
Yeah.
not, you know, and not an effective 4 years of college or play or, whatever it is. So
Right.
for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. Yeah, if you're just joining in, we're having a conversation with about summer strategies for future college athletes to really, accelerate, your child's college recruiting journey during the summer. And we have our special guest, Sarah Deacon, who's an adulting coach. So we're just having a conversation. So Sarah, I wanted to ask you as well about like, like maybe like how athletes can really prioritize their time and responsibilities. So do you have any tips on how they can do that?
I think it does come down to kind of a intentional
Hmm.
arrangement of time. And I have a 15 and a half-year-old son
Hmm.
who is a cross country runner and a karate instructor.
Oh, nice.
And it came down to with him, he had to want to do the things.
Mm, mhm.
I didn't push him into our family's been involved in karate for many years, um, but what I see as far as prioritizing time is you being intentional, knowing why you're doing what you're doing.
Right,
Because if you have a job, bagging groceries to have a job,
right.
like what is that ultimately doing for you? Like
Mhm,
like find that way to connect to
mhm.
the meaning and purpose behind it. So
Yeah,
again, even if it's something boring or hard or you're tired and you don't want to do it, at least underneath that it has a purpose.
right.
So prioritizing time and responsibilities, yes, as parents, we can help them because they don't always have the best time management skills.
Yeah,
We know this.
yeah,
And it has to be a give and take conversation. Like as the parent, I cannot hand my kid a schedule and be like, you are doing this now.
right.
It's, hey, remember your goal is this. And I'm here to support you. So, hey, guess what? You should maybe start getting ready for work right now.
Mhm,
Or, he's going to be doing driver's ed. So, yep, you're doing driver's ed. And here's what I need help with in order for you to make that happen.
mhm.
So it has to be a conversation,
Yeah,
and that's in these teenage years, that's a shift.
yeah,
Because
it
as
is.
they're younger, it's I get to tell you what to do, I manage your schedule, I manage your time.
Right.
But as they're starting to take ownership of their own goals, their own dreams, their own lives, they have to have a say
Mhm.
in how they spend their time.
Yeah,
And they can't be scheduled to the minute.
right.
They need to have that time to just kind of turn off their brain, watch YouTube,
Mm.
whatever thing they have to do. So there has to be those buffers in.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to that, to circle back, intentionality.
Mhm.
Has to be a conversation. Your son or daughter, they have to be bought in. They have to be invested for themselves.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to be a battle.
Yeah, I love that too. Like, because I feel like, in the college recruiting journey, it's like, college coaches really want the athlete, the child to really take control of their journey. It's their journey. And I love what you said about being intentional as well. I think that's really something that, maybe goes unnoticed or missed sometimes. So it's very powerful.
Well, a
So,
lot of times we can like slap a label of intention on after the fact.
mhm,
We can look back and go, oh yeah, I was doing that because,
yeah,
but my invitation would be to be proactive about
yep,
setting the intention.
hmm,
Okay, we're still at the very beginning of summer. We haven't gotten too deep into the like lost chaos of it. There's still time to rein things in, right?
right,
Take a look at your summer. How is the time being spent, or how do you want the time to be spent? What
hmm,
are some of the goals and priorities you have over the summer? My son is working, he's got running, and he wants to do driver's ed. So it's like, okay, those are some top priorities. Well, other than that, it's going to be here and there will be things that we do, and it's, if something comes in conflict with those things, then it's going to have to be a conversation. Like, what is more important? Is
right,
it that family vacation, or is it that connection with your cross country team? Like, what is it going to be?
yeah.
And here's why we're going to make the decision together that we're going to make.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, prioritization's very, very important. I think it's maybe a skill that like a lot of people, like even I feel like most adults maybe are not really something that they
Oh
don't
yeah,
teach
it's
in
always a work in
school.
progress.
Yeah, they don't teach that in school, which I think feel like they should,
Right.
right? Because
Yes,
prioritizing is
me too.
crucial. Yeah, it's crucial. That leads me kind of into our next like discussion point. So like what are some strategies for athletes to make the most of like let me say that question again. What are some strategies for athletes for them to really make the most of their summer as a future college student athlete?
Yeah, I mean, obviously prioritizing your training, whatever
Mm,
that looks like,
mhm,
that's going to be top. I mean, you can speak to that probably more accurately than I am, but I would think that would be one of the number ones. It's like, you don't
mhm.
want to backslide, you don't want to lose your strength, flexibility, or whatever skills you've been developing over the last however long.
Sure.
So staying consistent with your training, whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
Yes, maybe that the load lightens because you have family obligations,
Yeah.
vacations, other commitments. Like, I think anybody would understand that. And there still has to be a priority on the training
Mhm.
so that you can perform to the level you want to when you are being recruited and looked at and seen. So that, of course, is going to be one of the priorities. The other thing, I think there's some, from my understanding, I have a client who's a young athlete right now, and
Mhm.
there are some like paperwork things and reach outs that he has to be doing to
Yeah.
different schools and to different coaches,
Mhm.
and making time for that.
Yeah.
I My understanding is a very overwhelming process because he's expected to do like 100 of these, reach out to different
Yep.
coaches and things like that. And one of the things that we're working on is making that overwhelming task of I have to reach out to 100 people,
Mm,
making that, more manageable
sure.
and less overwhelming, because there's a lot of fear and anxiety that comes with that. What do I say? How do I do
Yes.
it? All of that.
Yeah.
And that's not unique to college athletes. Like, we have to do that if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for an internship, if you want to get into that certain program, whatever it is. So that's not unique to a college athlete, and it's a very overwhelming process. So breaking it down into, well, can I do like 10 minutes, or can I write one email to
Yeah.
get started?
Yep. Sure.
Like,
Yeah.
and then, okay, maybe I'll do two the next day. It's kind
Yep.
of like our training. You start with one push-up and then you do more, right? And it's that getting started, sometimes that's the hardest thing. So if there is something on the athlete's to-do list that they've been just like procrastinating on, It's
Yeah.
probably not because they don't want to do it. It's probably because they're scared
Mm.
of the overwhelmingness, like the overwhelming size of the task.
Yeah, I think too, like, I mean, I can speak to this as a former college athlete, not just college, but high school athlete, and just growing up as an athlete, and also growing up, with two parents in the military. I had to like kind of overcome this thing about being perfect, like perfection. And there's a
Mm,
saying that I just heard about, like, I don't know, 6 months ago. It's like progress over perfection.
mhm,
So I love what you were saying about like how you're helping your young client,
right,
just send one email today, or, just like, and then kind of work
right.
their way up. Yeah.
Done is better than perfect
Yes. I love that. Done is better than perfect.
because there's so many other people out there who are sitting on it too. So
Yep.
like even just taking that one step will set you apart
Yeah, for sure.
because just showing up is going to set you apart from all the other ones that are still shaking in their boots,
Yeah.
right?
And and there's something else you said about, like that made me think about rejection, like being able to
Mm,
handle rejection from a college coach. And so the next question kind of leads into that. So do you have any tips for athletes to really overcome, obstacles and challenges they might face? You know, including maybe like rejection from college coaches. It could be that or something else more general.
ooh, where do I start with overcoming
Yeah.
obstacles? Um, that's a big one. Building resilience.
Mm.
Again, it kind of comes back to the fundamentals. We're talking
Hmm.
about the athletics. It's all about the fundamentals, right?
Yeah.
Like know who you are,
Yep.
know what you value, know what you want,
Hmm.
and learn to trust that potentially the door that closes is a door that was not meant for you.
Yep.
Um, and again, that's way easier said than done.
Yeah.
Way easier said than done. So again, having somebody to process through and allow yourself to be upset, be disappointed, be frustrated, like it's okay to feel all those things just
Sure.
because you might tell the story that, oh, well, I'm not supposed to let it get me down because maybe you try to convince yourself it didn't really matter. No, it mattered.
Right.
And it's okay that it mattered. And once you've finished processing through that and have, taken a nap or
Mhm.
slept on it or,
Sure.
allowed the feelings to pass through however you need them to do, go, hit some baseballs or,
Yeah.
break something, fine. That's as long as it's not anybody else's property, right? Like
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm a martial artist, so we break boards and and then it can be very, very healing and cathartic.
Yeah.
But then it's time to step back and go, okay, well, what can I learn from this?
Mhm.
What did I like? What did I do well in this process? What did I like about how I approached it,
Mhm.
whatever the challenge might have been, or the obstacle? What did I like about it? If I had it to do all over again, what would I do?
Sure. Yeah.
So taking the time to debrief. And again, like there are so many parallels with athletics. I mean, how
Mhm.
many football teams like watch the replays of their best plays or their worst plays or
Mhm.
their wins, their losses, and
Mhm.
then go and pick it apart and analyze it.
Right.
Okay, we did that. That didn't work. This team, and just take that time to debrief and go, okay, what did I like? The thing we forget, and I emphasize the what did I like, is because we forget about that. And
Mhm.
especially athletes, especially perfectionists, those of us
Mhm.
who want it to be perfect and don't want to move until we know it will be.
Right.
Think about what you liked because we can beat ourselves up. We can get caught so far into the negative. Oh, well, if only I had done this, that, or the other thing, and beat ourselves up over it.
Mhm.
Start with what you liked. What
Yeah.
did I do well?
Yes. Yeah, that's very important. Um, so I want to talk about like the parents, like, and how they can support like their child's summer goals and aspirations as a future, college student, young adult. Can you
Mhm.
speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, it can be tricky because it can be very individualized depending
Mm.
on what the student is dealing with, what the parents are dealing with, what kind of pressures are involved,
Mhm.
are at play. Generally, at that age, getting ready for college, 16, 17, 18 years old, there's a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
against what the parents might suggest or offer or say or advise.
Mhm.
That's natural. That's developmentally appropriate. They are trying to find their way as men and women without mommy and daddy like taking the reins.
Mhm.
So it's natural that they're going to push back.
Mhm.
Expect it. Don't take it personally.
Right.
And if you have done your job and surrounded them with people, other people who are speaking your same values into them or who are encouraging them and who are supporting them, that's awesome. Because again, sometimes an aunt or uncle will say the same exact thing that the parent's saying, and then they'll be able to hear it. Or a friend's parent will
Mhm.
say the same thing, or a coach or a recruiter will say the same thing that maybe you as mom or dad have said 100 times and they have not listened.
Yeah.
It is, I outsource my kids. Like I said, he's on the cross country team. He has bosses and karate instructors that share our values that pour into my son.
Mhm.
The other thing is be open, be available, be around when they want to talk about stuff,
Mhm. Yes.
because they won't always want to talk about it when you want to talk about it. Staying open, staying available, and being curious instead of parental.
Yeah.
And allowing it to be a conversation. I think I mentioned that a little bit before when we were talking about priorities. It has to be their agency. Like they have to have choice and ownership in the process.
Mm.
That's not to say you can't give advice or guidance or support or help. They need that and they want that.
Yeah.
And it has to be a collaboration. It
Mm.
can't just be, mom and dad saying, do it this way.
Right. Yeah, that's a collaboration.
Yeah.
Yes. Very that's so true though, because I mean, yeah, I feel like sometimes it's either like a one-sided journey, like either the parents are doing everything or like the athlete is doing everything. And it's like, it is their journey, the child's journey. So, but
Yeah.
also there is a role for parents as well. So yeah.
Right. Because they are still figuring it out. They're
Yeah.
figuring out what works.
Yep.
Well, what works? Does me setting my own alarm work? Or do I
Mhm.
need support from my parents to just kind of give me that boot out the door?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
what is it that they're still learning? And I mean, even at all ages, we're still learning what works for me. What
Yes.
kind of accountability do I need?
Hmm.
And to be willing and to be adaptable if something isn't working.
Right.
Like, okay, look, dad, you telling me that I need to do this every single day and every conversation we have, that's not working for me,
Hmm.
right? Here's my plan, and being willing to share even from both sides. Like as a parent saying, okay, I see you want to have this goal and meet this deadline or do this by this date.
Hmm.
What support do you need?
Right.
What's your plan? And asking questions and being willing to let them take the lead a little bit,
Sure.
which is really hard.
Yeah, it is hard, but I'm sure that could also help build confidence, for the
Yeah,
young athlete as
absolutely.
well. Yeah.
Because there are fears that come around things like that, taking ownership of your own time, of your own schedule, of your own training, whatever it is, of your
Mhm.
own recruiting process, the reaching out, the emailing, the filling out the applications, whatever that is.
Yeah.
If when the parent is present and available, it's what support do you need?
Mhm.
How can I help you with this? And there might be some resistance. Oh, I don't need any help. Well, as parents, your child, their pattern, their history.
Mhm.
Make a suggestion saying, well, I've noticed that you tend to put things off to the last minute. Is that something that serves you? And what kind of reminders do you need? Like maybe instead of me as mom saying it every day, maybe I can remind you 2 days
Mhm.
before you have to do it or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and lay out that timeline, lay out the expectations, and actually like figure out what each of you needs.
Sure.
what you as the parent need to feel like your child is on track, what your child needs to feel like they are the master of their destiny.
Yeah, it's beautiful. A few more questions. So the next one is about like motivation and focus, right? I mean, athletes very motivated and focused, but
Mm.
sometimes, that they're, that can kind of dwindle a little bit. So like how can like young athletes stay motivated and focus like on their long-term goals, probably getting into college, to play sports as well. How can they stay motivated on their and focus on their long-term goals like throughout the summer?
That's a really interesting question. I think it kind of depends.
Mhm.
Some kids might need to scale back
Yeah.
and take a step back to reignite the motivation, to realize what they miss out on if they're
Mhm.
not doing it. So, that's a great opportunity. Family vacations. You might not be training and super focused on it, but there might be those opportunities for those more relaxed conversations and invitations to dream a little bit about the big picture future.
Sure.
So being given permission to explore and dream and daydream and play in the imagination, like what do I want my life to be like,
Mhm.
without the pressure of, oh, if you want that, well then you need to do XYZ thing, where they don't need another to-do list, but they might need that space to just kind of explore and play a little bit with different
Sure.
ideas.
Yeah.
Staying focused on the big vision. I'm going to say it again. Fundamentals. What do you value? Who do you say you are? How do you
Mhm.
define yourself? Where do you see yourself belonging? And what gives you meaning and purpose in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, that's, I mean, crucial because I feel like, when you do, as we talked about earlier, know your core values, know who you are,
Mhm.
just, you're able to really align yourself with the college you want to go to, the college coach you want to play for, like depending on
Right.
their core values and like their coaching style and like
And
things
it
like that.
becomes fun.
Yeah, it does for
Because
sure.
you start to be connected to that, because it's like, oh, you know what? Helping other people, that gives me
Mm.
meaning in my life. Like
Yeah.
I love tutoring or whatever, or I love when I get to take the new player on my team under my wing or something like
Mhm.
that. Maybe that's something that connects with somebody and, oh, yeah, I really love that. Okay, cool. Like what could that look like in your future in college and beyond? Are you captain of the team? Are you um you know, what do you call it, a resident advisor, or
Mhm.
are you, what kind of roles might fit with that?
Yeah.
And it gets to be kind of exciting, like, oh, like there's ways to connect the dots, and sometimes they can't see those dots,
Mm.
but again, the adults or the coaches, mentors, guides in their lives can say, oh, that's something you really enjoy. Let's talk about how that could show up in the
Yeah.
future
Yeah.
as you move forward, and what roles you might want to explore with it.
So I just want to wrap up with one last question, then we'll talk about how people can find you and like reach out and work with you. So I'm going to talk about balance because I feel like, and speaking as a former athlete myself, balance can be finding a good balance can be difficult. So what are some like fun ways that athletes can really balance like their sports training with other summer activities so they don't get burned out?
Right. Um, it's an intention piece again, identifying what fills your cup.
Hmm.
For some people, it's just hanging out with friends, going to the park, going to a movie, going, whatever the kids are doing these days. Um, some people unwind playing video games.
Hmm.
Finding time and making space for those those things.
Sure.
Again, it doesn't always have to be a huge chunk of time. It doesn't always have to be like the smallest amount of time that you can squeeze in, because that can feel like pressure too.
Hmm.
I like to sort of guide around setting your own maybe screen time limits if you find maybe screen time becomes a distraction or a kind of time suck, or you don't feel good after you use screens in a certain way.
Mm.
So setting your own time limits around it. There's apps that can turn off
Hmm.
certain apps if you want to set boundaries around that. But creating your own boundaries again, like letting the child take the lead, letting the young adults take the lead on it. Like, how am I using it effectively? How is it ineffective in my life? Um, and then making eating right, sleeping,
Mhm.
and moving your body the priority, right?
Yeah.
Making sure that you're taking care of your health
Yep.
and eating good food, food that you like.
Yeah.
And athletes are probably used to this, especially, in all the ones that, the wrestlers who do the weight class and the,
Mhm.
everything like that. But making healthy choices and again, being intentional proactively. Like, what foods do I like? Let's make
Right.
sure those are in the house. How much sleep should I be getting? Well, maybe that's not realistic, but
Mhm.
can I get a half hour more than I am getting? Because a lot of young people don't get enough sleep. That's very important.
Mhm.
So those are, again, back to the basics.
Yeah.
The other thing I really like to talk about is the introduction of judgment-free zones. Um,
Mhm.
Having people who you can just be with. They won't judge you, they won't try and push you in a direction you don't want to go. They might challenge you a little bit, but it's, people who can just listen without judging.
Mhm.
For some people, it's even journaling.
Mhm.
I consider that a judgment-free zone.
Yeah.
For some people, it might be online spaces
Yep.
where they feel at home to just process through the mental clutter, because we were talking earlier about how um, inundated we are with different information and overwhelming that can be. So finding places to process through some of that stuff without adding more to it.
Yeah.
So I call it judgment-free zones.
Yeah.
Another
I love that. I've been journaling ever since I was in fourth grade. So what, like 10
Mhm.
years old, and now I'm in
Mm.
my mid 40s. And it's just been, I actually use a video journal now. It's called Day One.
Nice.
Yeah, I think it's just a great way to just, get your emotions out, express your emotions. It just, I don't know, it's like very therapeutic as well.
Right.
So yeah, I think, I love what you said about that. I also love what you said about getting back to the basics. Because I do feel that, like, maybe people who are kind of going through this college recruiting journey, they want to kind of skip like to the, well, how do I get my kid on the radar of a college coach? How do I reach out to college coaches? But I feel like there's steps like that you should
Right.
take before that to really make sure you're prepared for that, reaching out to a coach, getting on the radar
Right.
of a college coach. So yeah, the basics, very
Yeah, I
important.
find that I get exactly what I'm ready to receive
Yep.
and no more.
Yes. Yeah.
So, again, if you have your sights very, very large, that could be exactly what you're ready for.
Yeah.
Most of the time it's not.
Right.
There's a lot of work that we need to do to be ready to receive that kind
Mm.
of, large blessing, large gift, whatever,
Yeah.
opportunity, like the big opportunity, the big break, whatever it is. There is a lot of, there's no such thing as an overnight success, right? There's
Right.
like years and years of lead up to the overnight success story,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I feel like the media, and like maybe us as people, we as people are like so like maybe obsessed over about
Oh,
those
we love those stories.
overnight success stories from like even Facebook or like Apple or Google. They were not overnight successes.
Right. They had
Um,
all of the years of experience behind them
yep,
to come together at that critical moment when they were ready, when the
yep,
time was right. So, it'll happen. Like,
yeah,
it'll happen exactly the way it's meant to happen. And yeah, you want bigger and better things, and clear the space, get those judgment-free zones, get the mental clutter out your out of your upstairs, and then take those steps to grow as a person, to grow in a like holistic way, and be intentional, prioritize, get to the basics, eat, sleep,
sure,
move
yeah.
appropriately.
So, I wanted to also ask you, so where can people find you and reach out to and work with you? I know I do have a couple of your sites. I'm going to pop in the chat here in the comments section.
Yeah.
I'm going to put your website in there. And I'm going to put your Facebook page in there as
Mhm.
well. So is
Yeah.
this website just sarahdeacon.com? And
No H in Sarah.
No
That's
Agent
something
Sarah,
else.
that's important. No Agent Sarah. And Facebook page, can they message you on Send you like a
They
Facebook
can absolutely
Messenger?
message me through Sarah Deacon Coach on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn as just Sarah Deacon. My business page is up there too. For anybody watching, there's a QR code and my hashtag in my background there. The QR code takes you to schedule a one-on-one with me. I offer a free adult successfully strategy session. And that is up to an hour to kind of unpack what's going on and see how I can help. And
Wonderful. Yeah.
it's a fun time. I give some tools, lay some groundwork for if we do continue to work together. But yeah, that's a great place to find me on social media. Again, yeah, it's Sarah Deacon Coach.
Awesome. This has been great. I want to, thank you for being here. I just want to do a quick recap of like some of the